what social service or sector is most affected by military spending and increases in it?
Well, I mean, the story of that is yet to come because we're facing an attack on a few fronts that's going to be massive. One is medical system. That's not, that's the most serious factor, the most dangerous factor, likely result of vast deterioration, which wasn't so I didn't do it. The other is pensions, which are under that help, and the third is education, which public, which in terms of money involved is somewhat less than the other two areas, but in which the consequences are very important. And the reason, I mean, we're all aware of something about fiscal crisis. And the fiscal crisis is,
could you speak up, please?
We're in a fiscal crisis. The fiscal crisis is presumably resulted on federal debt ballooning and exceeding our capacity to sustain the federal debt. Now, there's things to be said about that too. That's the next question. But the reason that we're having this increase in federal debt is that the tax system has been restructured over the past 30 years to guarantee this massive growth in wealth and income. George Stiglitz has a wonderful article that talks about of the 1%, by the 1%, for the 1%. And growth over the past decade of the income and wealth of the 1% is enormous. The top 10% has taken all of it. Of that, about 1% taken 40% of it. And the reason, how is that that's done? Well, often, by and large, through tax policy, which is liquidating taxes on corporations and dividing the tax loopholes and tax rebates in such a way that now any smart millionaire doesn't pay anything. I mean, the official rates are a joke. And so that the vast incomes have flowed through the destruction of the tax system. If we pay what we paid 40, if the tax system is the same as it was 40 years ago because of percentages, who pays what, we have no debt at all. There would be no deficit, there would be no national debt. The income would cover everything. And all these things, even the bloated military, covered by the, but of course, we don't have that. We have liquidation of our tax system on the bill. And this government has no income, or it has a little less income than it has to have to support its program of social expenditures. Since the military budget takes up 50% of the real tax income, and the rest is not, there's not enough to cover the expenditures for social welfare. Therefore, they're going to be attacked, and the ones that are going to be attacked most are the medical system, where here there's a real problem. Medicare is not adequately funded because, particular reason for why it's not medical because the government refuses to negotiate medical prices with the drug providers. And so the prices are extremely out of line with the rest of the world. And for this reason, and also the insurance, medical insurance, private insurance companies take a very big piece of the medical budget. So because of these two factors, Medicare is not adequately funded because the system is running the deficit, and this has to be solved. Now, the Obama plan, which was to, I mean, this is at the same time that most Americans are covered by health. It's really bizarre. And the Obama plan sought to cover more people with health insurance, but it didn't do anything really to cut expenditures. And so the whole system is unstable. It's not sustainable. And either you're going to go to some kind of single payer system, or you're simply going to end up denying methods. That's the choice you have. And they're not not taking that concept. We're trying to keep that plan down the road. It won't be long. Social Security, pension system and Social Security is adequately funded. It's not in a crisis, except that what is ideologically poisonous to Republicans and people who don't like the government. And so they would like to eliminate it and direct some of that, take some of that funding that goes to that and put it into the hands of the financial system. So for example, the Bush plan was privatized Social Security, which would mean hundreds of billions of dollars for the financial industry, the fees they would get from management. And that was the original plan. This is the original hysteria about Social Security was based on trying to implement that plan. Well, it's coming back in new forms now. The Ryan plan is the same thing, and so that that's more or less a scam to impose to liquidate that if the funds ever go into Medicare, the financial system. Education is another story. Education is, in fact, partly an attempt to liquidate public education. One of the purposes of it is to destroy the power of the unions the teachers unions, which remain one sector of the workforce that's highly unionized. Some has so the desire to privatize the system, initiate public charter school, building on the dissatisfaction of people with the existing school system, no doubt there's a lot of problems. People are happy with it, but the whole campaign to privatize education is an attempt basically aimed at the teacher union and at the teachers who they want to reduce to professionals to kind of contract labor, year-to-year casual labor, which they can bring in and release 1 year from the next. They can move teachers around from one school to another, from one grade to another, so they can return, transform education from a profession to a kind of Walmart job. So that's the purpose of that. So those are the three areas that are most social welfare that are most under attack. For other things like employment insurance and stuff like that will be under attack. Are also under attack. But those are the three.
I would agree with the things that you said. I think that everyone is affected by military spending, and that's separated because so much of our spending goes toward that. We do forego things like better education, a national healthcare system, or creating jobs, things like that could be funded but are not being because we decide that we'd rather give the illusion that we're the best country in the world rather than actually spending toward being the best country in the world. On a more specific note, I think that the poorest people in our country are the ones that are affected the most because those are usually the first services to go. When people start talking about when we want to cut services, let's cut welfare because those people do not deserve it. Because we always want to blame the poor for being poor and take away any kind of funding that's there because, well, they didn't deserve it in the first place because they didn't work for it. So they kind of get the first part of it. The other sector that we really overlook in terms of military spending is our veterans of the military. Their benefits are not within that military budget. They're within the civilian discretionary budget, and they have to be voted on. And a lot of times, their department, the Veteran Affairs Department, is one of the first ones to be cut. Well, why? Because veterans are taught by our military to say yes to everything. And so they're the least amount of people that are going to stand up and say, no, we don't want our funds cut. So they go off, 18-year-old kids, they sign up for the military, they think that they're doing something good because we've all been told that fighting for freedom is a good idea and that we should do it, or they do it for the benefits of, a lot of them depending on which state you're in and the different things that happen, you get education benefits when you come out, so, and now they're cutting those benefits. They just had a cut, just in the past few months, they were cutting, several $100s off people's education benefits, with the veterans. So they have these kids go out and fight these wars because we want this complex of this strong military. They come back damaged, mentally, emotionally, physically, and then we take away their benefits. And okay, well, thanks for coming out, but we can't help you now. And when it comes to the homeless population, a fifth of our homeless population is veterans because they have come back damaged and not able to sustain themselves and to do those things. And then we cut their benefits and say, too bad, but thanks for fighting. So they really get the short end of the stick in terms of where we are budgeting our money. You know, if you're going to have a huge military budget, that should be a part of it. And not saying that having this huge military budget is right, but if it's what we're doing, then why aren't we taking care of the people that we're sending out there to use this money with?
Dr. Kennedy.
The key program that has been starved by the military industrial complex, and I'm looking at some of the various kinds of things that they're now using the money for. It's fascinating, this magazine. Just the kind of masks that they wear when they go out on patrol are now highly expensive items. And you've got these helicopters that don't have people in them, these drones. So there's $1 billion. That's the very nature of the modern imperial army with its optics, its GPS, needs much more money, much more money than your old Sherman tanks and bazookas of my generation. Just hooking up soldiers with radar in their helmets. And of course, they will overcharge for these things, but they are definitely there. So we got this avionics, electronic warfare machine that now is expanded almost geometrically in terms of the amount of money needed. So who's going to be hurt by that? And I would argue that this generation of young folks between the age of 18, 30, and 36, you are on the hammer, while as they're very clever at setting up a multi-generational division. We'll let the Kenny Jameses and the Finley Campbells and the Mel Rothenbergs, we won't cut your Social Security, we won't cut your this, it may be less able to pay your bills, but we will not cut it. But the next generation coming up, anybody below 50 or 60, is going to be put on this hammer. So what am I looking at? I am looking at income stabilization. That is the main casualty of the war machine. But what the heck is income stabilization? It's a fancy way of saying people get income by working. And it's stabilized because you're getting a living wage, adequate income that will allow you to purchase and be a part of a consuming society. One of the ways in which this was done was something that was called the Whole Welfare Program, which was a very crude form of guaranteed annual income. Sometimes it was geared to the number of children you had, or to some kind of disability in your life, something called SSI. But there was a way by which you were kind of guaranteed some kind of income. Now, those of us who were in the old radical Poor People's Campaign of '68, we were looking for a big chunk of guaranteed annual income. We want to get rid of all the welfare craziness, and you just, as a human being that alive in America, you would get a check equal to the bottom line that you needed to stay alive and to participate in the society. Well, that never took off, and so what we had was various forms of welfare programs, which Clinton pretty well demolished, and I believe that's where he got his so-called surplus. He just threw people off of welfare, except for the military industrial complex welfare group. The second aspect of income stabilization that has been gutted by the war machine, the military industrial complex, and its financial energy is what you call the federalization of the job market. What's that? The federal government used to actually send money directly and indirectly into systems of economic behavior, like Social Security offices. You had a bunch of Social Security offices scattered around the country. And people go in there, get their Social Security processed, handle problems, and get paid a salary to do so. You had post offices all over the damn place. You had two-day delivery. You had Saturday delivery. And all of that allowed people to make some income. In fact, I've always said, and I said in our last meeting, that you could have instant employment process and you just simply reinstituted 7-day-a-week mail delivery. And what does it take to hook a bag? Well, you actually got to have this little radar thing on the trucks and stuff like that. There'll be some training needed. That's gone. What else was defederalized? Educational programs, Head Start, the program we used to have in college for Upward Bound. These were federalized programs that allowed people to work directly from the federal government through these interconnected grants and so forth. Because I remember the golden age when I was a summer instructor running a program at Morehouse, and we got a big old chunk of money from the federal government, $500,000 to $600,000, which would be like 10 bullets today, in order to educate young folks who didn't want to spend their senior year in high school having a good time instead come to Morehouse and suffer. Finally, the federalization of the job market meant that there were actual supportive services in the welfare program. Strip away the idea of people that get money on ABC. There was a need through federal grants, block grants given to states, through the public housing realities, through the subsidization of welfare activities, where people needed counseling, they needed help, they needed the word out, I can't do this, I can't do that, I have a problem with my arms. There was all this sort of federal support that the government began to move away from those needed areas where money was being made, income was coming in, people would go to social work schools, learn all these arts and crafts of dealing with human beings, and they could be guaranteed a decent income stabilization. Last but not least was what I call secondary investment activities. The federal government decided with the Hyde bill, we want to build hospitals. We want hospitals all over the place, particularly in the South. South was naked of hospitals before Hilbert took off. Well, the U.S. government is not going to get the Army Corps of Engineers to go out there and build these hospitals. They were given as contract. You could bid on a contract. You could be a private business bidding on a contract to build these hospitals. When this was connected to the union, UMW, for example, the United Mine Workers in Virginia, they created incredible systems of clinics, particularly for black lung disease, that sprout out all over these hollows of Appalachia. They these beautiful clinics that was a combination of union money, federal money, state money, and did that, again, like I said, did the Federal Army Corps of Engineers build these things? No, they was contracted out to businesses which then hired people. Well, we can always look at the three interconnections. The rising finance capital sucking out of the interest structure of our money system on the one side, poor investment strategies and policies and corruption on the other. But in the main, it's this stuff. This was where the money started going. To build up an imperial system in preparation for, and I hate to sound like my fundamental Christian, but I will for a quick minute, in preparation for a world war. We're sitting on billions and billions of dollars of Polaris, Pershing, ICBM, my favorite bomber, the B-52, still out there, loaded to bear, with all kinds of fancy avionics, to send missiles of all kinds. Just press a little button, and those babies are ready to fly, because at some point, it is my belief that these guys, unless we can somehow figure out ways to stop them, will, if they feel the empire is getting ready to be in trouble from the Afrasians or the Eurasians, or whatever large new hegemony that may be emerging with China and Russia and India and Brazil, and India, and for God's sake, South Africa, leave it. And rather than lose that competition, they might be willing to press the button. In the meantime, however, take that scenario off the table, but keep it in the back of your mind. These are the three areas where this stuff is sucking out the money. Income stabilization, guaranteed annual income of some sort, federalization of the job market as I described, the government as the employer of last resort, and secondary investment activities. They're investing in bridge building, which allows the bridge builders to hire people to build the bridges.